You have 60 seconds, and they are already dissolving. Not to think, not to prepare, to decide. There is a hidden law few ever notice. Reality rearranges itself around identity, not intention. And once every so often, a fracture opens, a silent collapse between who you've been and who you could become. Most people miss it. They hesitate. The window seals. The same life resumes. But when this minute ends, something will lock into place. The only question is, will it be your evolution or your repetition? The minute that tightens. It never begins with numbers. There is no glowing countdown hovering in the air. No supernatural clock demanding your attention. It begins with pressure, a subtle tightening in your chest, like the air has thinned slightly, like something invisible has leaned closer to you. You try to ignore it. You scroll. You distract yourself. You rationalize. But the pressure doesn't leave. Because this minute is not measured by seconds. It is measured by resistance. Somewhere deep inside you, a decision has reached maturity. Not an action, a decision. And when a decision ripens long enough without being made, reality begins to constrict around it. You feel it now. The room looks the same. The walls haven't moved. The world hasn't shifted. But your options feel heavier, more urgent, as if something unseen is waiting. There is an ancient principle rarely spoken of. Life expands around clarity. It contracts around hesitation. And contraction feels exactly like this. You stand still, yet something is narrowing. Your thoughts circle the same subject, the thing you've been postponing. A conversation, a leap, an ending, a beginning. You've rehearsed it before, many times. You told yourself you needed more certainty, more preparation, more proof. But here is the hidden truth. Certainty never arrives before identity changes. It arrives after. The tightening increases. You inhale. The breath feels shallow. This is the minute, not because a clock says so, because your internal resistance has reached its limit. When resistance peaks, reality demands alignment. And alignment always feels like risk. You hear a voice, not external, not dramatic, just a current beneath thought. Choose. You stiffen. I need more time, you whisper internally. The pressure responds instantly, heavier. Time is not what you lack. Clarity is. And clarity is terrifying because it removes excuses. The air feels charged now. Not mystical, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. You suddenly realize something unsettling. Nothing external is forcing you. There is no catastrophe, no ultimatum. If you walk away from this moment, life will continue. Quietly, ordinarily. That is the trap. Because nothing dramatic will punish you. The same patterns will simply resume. And that quiet continuation is more dangerous than collapse. You close your eyes. Images surface, uninvited. Moments from your past when you felt this exact tightening. Different circumstances, same sensation, the almost decision, the edge, the internal argument. Each time you stepped back. Each time relief washed over you. And each time something dimmed. Not visibly, but subtly. A layer of aliveness reduced. You open your eyes. The pressure sharpens. This is not the first minute like this. It is the accumulated weight of all the previous ones. Every delayed decision stores energy. That energy does not disappear, it compresses. And compression eventually demands release. You feel it now, like standing on a fault line moments before it shifts. Two versions of you emerge, not as apparitions, but as forces inside your chest. One whispers safety. Stay. Think longer. Avoid destabilizing everything. It sounds intelligent, protective, responsible. The other is quieter, but stronger. Move, not recklessly, not emotionally, just decisively. You feel the difference between them. The first is familiar. The second is alive. Your pulse accelerates. This is the part no one explains. Your current identity fights for survival. If you choose differently now, the self you've been collapses, not physically, structurally. The routines, excuses, justifications, all lose authority. That feels like death to the ego, and so it deploys fear. What if you fail? What if you regret it? What if everything destabilizes? The questions come fast, convincing, but beneath them, a deeper question rises. What if nothing changes? That question lands differently, heavier, because you already know what that timeline feels like. You've lived it. It's not painful, it's not dramatic, it's just repetitive, predictable, muted. You suddenly understand this minute is not asking for courage. It is asking for authorship. Will you author the next phase of your life, or will you let inertia write it for you? The pressure intensifies. Your body feels restless, like energy is building with nowhere to go. That's because indecision traps momentum. Decision releases it. The room feels smaller now, not physically, but psychologically. Your future feels closer, near enough to touch, near enough to lose. The safe voice grows louder. You can revisit this tomorrow, but you recognize that tone. Tomorrow is the most seductive illusion ever created. Tomorrow has protected every unfulfilled version of you. Tomorrow never arrives with more bravery than today. The quiet voice returns. Now, your heartbeat feels like a drum, not counting time, demanding truth. You realize something critical. If you do not consciously decide, your subconscious will default, and your subconscious is built from repetition. That means the same choice will be made again, not because you wanted it, but because you didn't interrupt it. The pressure reaches its peak. This is the crest of the wave, the exact moment where identity can pivot. You feel the split inside you widening. One path requires disruption, the other requires nothing. And that is why it is dangerous, because doing nothing feels harmless. But doing nothing is a decision. You inhale deeply. For a brief second, everything becomes still, not calm, charged, balanced between two directions. You understand now, this minute is not measured by seconds. It is measured by willingness. And willingness has an expiration point. If you retreat now, the window seals quietly. The pattern hardens. Life stabilizes back into familiarity. But if you choose, even before action, reality begins reorganizing immediately. Opportunities shift. Conversations align. Energy unlocks. Not magically, mechanically. Because identity is the axis around which experience rotates. The tightening becomes almost unbearable. You feel it in your throat, your chest, your spine. The final thought forms clearly. If you walk away now, you will return to the same edge again. But each time, it will feel heavier, until eventually, you stop noticing it at all. And that is how people slowly disappear inside their own lives. The pressure surges one final time. The safe voice whispers urgently. The alive voice waits. This is the minute. Not because time is running out, but because repetition is about to lock in, and you are standing exactly at the point where it can still be broken. The archive of unchosen lives. The pressure does not break. It deepens. For a moment, everything inside you becomes unbearably still, like the air before a collapse. Your heartbeat slows instead of racing. The noise of thought recedes, and then the world thins, not disappears, thins. The walls of your room lose density, becoming translucent layers, as if reality were made of overlapping sheets of memory. The space around you stretches vertically into darkness. You are not falling. You are being revealed. A vast structure emerges beyond the surface of ordinary perception. endless corridors made of dim light and moving symbols. Not architecture, pattern, not walls, woven timelines. You understand without being told. This is not imagination. This is the archive. Every life generates branches. Every decision splits probability. Most branches collapse instantly because identity rejects them. Only a few stabilize. The rest are stored, preserved, unlived. The pressure in your chest is not fear. It is recognition. You step forward though your body is not moved. As you approach the first corridor, you see something impossible. Your name. Not written in letters but encoded in vibration. A frequency that feels unmistakably yours. The corridor hums as you enter. Rows of suspended fragments float in midair like frozen scenes made of glass. You reach toward one. The moment you touch it, the fragment ignites. You are somewhere else. Different apartment, different city. You feel older, but not wiser. You recognize the sensation immediately. The quiet settling. This version of you chose safety. The decision was subtle, rational. It avoided risk. Life continued smoothly. Nothing catastrophic happened, but something vital never ignited. The fragment dims. You pull your hand back. The archive whispers, not in language, but in layered resonance. This branch stabilized through non-disruption. You move deeper. Another fragment. This one pulses brighter. You touch it. A different scene. You spoke. You acted. You destabilized something comfortable. There were consequences, loss, uncertainty, but also expansion. Your nervous system feels different in this branch. Alive, engaged, growing. The fragment does not feel perfect, but it feels dimensional. It doesn't collapse when you release it. It stabilizes. You turn. The corridors extend infinitely in both directions, and then you see it. A massive chamber at the center of the archive. At its core stands a mechanism unlike the rest, a sphere of rotating rings made of light and shadow. Each ring engraved with moving sigils, each ring turning at a different speed. This is not storage. This is selection, the chamber of convergence. As you approach, the rings slow. They respond to you. A realization pierces through. The archive does not judge. It calibrates. Every time you hesitate at a fracture point, the mechanism registers it. Every time you decide, it locks a branch into density. The current pressure you feel is not random. It is accumulation. You are standing at a threshold because too many unchosen branches have reached saturation. If you default again, the mechanism will seal, not forever, but for a cycle. The rings begin rotating faster. You see threads extending from your chest into the mechanism, hundreds of them. Each thread connected to a branch you almost lived. A voice emerges from the center of the sphere, not warm, not cold, impersonal. You have reached structural limit. The words vibrate through your bones. What does that mean? You ask. The rings align briefly, projecting an image into the air. Your life, not as events, but as trajectory. A line curving gently, but never sharply. Predictable, contained. Repetition has stabilized beyond growth threshold, the voice continues. If no disruption occurs at this node, pattern will harden. The chamber dims slightly. You feel the weight of it, not punishment, finality, a cycle locking in. You realize something devastating. Most people never feel this pressure because they stop approaching fracture points. They shrink their lives small enough to avoid them, but you did not. You kept approaching edges, and now the archive demands resolution. The rings spin violently. One of the threads connected to your chest glows brighter than the rest. You follow it visually. It leads to a fragment not yet stabilized, a potential branch waiting for declaration. It flickers between existence and collapse. This branch requires identity override, the voice states. Override of what? override of inherited continuity. The words strike deeper than expected. Inherited continuity. You suddenly feel the weight of patterns that are not even yours. Family narratives, cultural limitations, inherited fears, generational hesitation. Threads extend behind you, not just from your life, but from lives before yours. The archive is larger than personal history. It is ancestral. The twist lands with force. If you choose stagnation now, you are not only repeating yourself, you are reinforcing a lineage of repetition. The mechanism hums louder. If override is not initiated, ancestral continuity will proceed uninterrupted. You feel anger rise, not dramatic rage, clarity. So this isn't just about me. The voice does not soften. Individual identity is a node in a larger lattice. The glowing thread pulses. The unstable branch flickers harder. You feel it pulling you, but resistance intensifies. Your current identity fights violently now, not because it fears failure, because it fears annihilation. To choose differently is to dismantle the self that has kept you coherent. The chamber begins contracting. The rings accelerate to near blinding speed. This convergence cannot be sustained, the voice states. Decision must anchor. You feel the archive starting to withdraw, the fragments dimming, the corridors dissolving. This access is temporary. One final image projects before you, a future where nothing terrible happens, but nothing extraordinary either. A smooth, stable arc, predictable. And then, overlaid on top of it, another trajectory. Chaotic at first, uncertain, but expanding, layered, influential, not comfortable, but alive. The voice delivers the final twist of the chapter. Destiny is not written by fate. It is written by tolerance for instability. The chamber begins collapsing inward. The glowing thread connected to the unstable branch vibrates intensely. If you do not declare now, it will snap. And once snapped, it cannot be accessed again in this cycle. The archive fades. The corridors dissolve into darkness. You feel yourself pulled back toward your physical body. The pressure returns to your chest, stronger than before, because now you know. This minute is not symbolic. It is structural. And if you default again, the mechanism will seal. The seal or the break. The return is violent, not physically, but perceptually. Your room snaps back into form around you, dense and ordinary, as if nothing cosmic has just unfolded behind the veil of your senses. But the pressure hasn't faded. It has sharpened. Now it carries knowledge. You stand exactly where you were. Same walls, same air, same unfinished decisions waiting like silent witnesses. But something irreversible has happened. You have seen the mechanism, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. Your chest feels like a hinge. On one side, continuity. On the other, fracture. The ordinary world feels almost suspicious now. Too calm, too unchanged. That's the final deception. Reality never dramatizes the sealing of a cycle. It stabilizes it quietly. A subtle heaviness creeps into your limbs. The gravitational pull of familiarity. The archive is no longer visible, but you feel the thread it showed you, the unstable branch, vibrating faintly inside your chest. It hasn't snapped, not yet, but it's weakening. Your thoughts attempt to reassert control. Maybe this was symbolic. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I can revisit this tomorrow. The ego is rebuilding its scaffolding, fast, efficient, because survival for the ego means continuity, and continuity means no disruption. But beneath that noise, something else has awakened. A deeper layer of you, quieter, wider, watching. It understands something crucial. You are not being asked to leap blindly. You are being asked to declare allegiance. To which identity will you belong? The pressure peaks again, but this time it feels different, less chaotic, more focused, as if the entire universe has narrowed to a single point directly behind your sternum. And then you feel it, a countdown, not in numbers, but in closing space. Possibility shrinking, momentum preparing to settle. This is the final threshold, the seal point. If you remain passive, inertia will choose for you. The branch will collapse. The ancestral continuity will resume. Life will proceed. Smoothly, predictably. Your nervous system will calm. You will call it relief. But somewhere deeper, a subtle dimming will occur. The same dimming you've felt before. Only this time, it will root deeper. Harder to reverse. You step toward the internal pressure instead of away from it. That alone changes something. The room subtly shifts, not visually, but atmospherically. The air feels charged again, responsive. The thread inside your chest glows slightly brighter. You close your eyes. You realize something profound. Action is not required yet. Declaration is. The archive did not demand proof. It demanded override. Override of inherited continuity. Override of personal inertia. Override of the identity that survives by postponing becoming. Your breath steadies. The ego screams one last time. If you disrupt this, everything could change. And then the deeper layer responds, that is the point. Silence. Pure. Undisturbed. This is the stillness before imprint. You understand now how destiny actually forms, not through dramatic events, but through identity crystallization at fracture points. Most people never consciously choose. They drift into reinforcement. You feel the seal beginning to descend, like a massive, invisible door lowering slowly from above. Not malicious, mechanical, impersonal. If it closes, the pattern sets. The pressure in your chest becomes almost unbearable. This is the last microsecond of structural flexibility. You don't shout, you don't beg, you don't ask for signs. You decide. Not emotionally, not impulsively, cleanly. I am the one who disrupts the pattern. The words are not spoken loudly. They are anchored internally. The effect is immediate. The invisible door shudders. The gravitational pull of familiarity fractures. The thread inside your chest ignites, no longer flickering, but stabilizing. The air around you shifts, subtle but undeniable. A sensation of expansion moves outward from your spine. The seal does not descend, it retracts. You feel something ancient respond, not congratulating, not praising, simply recalibrating. The mechanism has registered the override. You open your eyes, the room looks identical, and yet it doesn't. There is more space in it, more depth, as if new probability has been permitted to exist. Your phone vibrates. You don't look at it immediately because you understand the real shift has already happened. External changes are delayed echoes. Identity was the cause. Circumstance will follow. You walk toward the thing you've been avoiding, not recklessly, but decisively. The fear is still present, but it no longer governs. It feels smaller now, contained. As you move, something subtle occurs. The heaviness that once defined this room dissipates. You realize the pressure was never punishment. It was compression before expansion. And now, expansion has begun. The final twist settles into awareness. The 60 seconds were never about urgency. They were about permission. Permission to become unstable long enough for evolution to occur. You didn't defeat fate. You interrupted continuity. And somewhere beyond perception, in the vast lattice of branches and archives, a new trajectory locks into density. Not guaranteed success, not guaranteed ease, but guaranteed aliveness. The seal was waiting. It almost closed. Instead, you broke the pattern. And the universe, indifferent yet precise, has already begun rearranging itself around who you decided to be. Nothing exploded, nothing dramatic happened, but everything has shifted because you did not watch nothing change. You became the change point, and the next minute of your life will never again be identical to the last.